G'day, legends, and welcome to the Thursday Sesh by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight, it's Willie over in New Zealand. How are you going, Willie?
I've had a better 48-hour sort of time frame. Yeah, it's been a bit of a sobering experience the last couple of days. So
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. So
uh,
we've got a little bit of talk about the reason for that, and then hopefully we can find a few tangents to go off on, and
uh,
hopefully there's some chaos in the comment section that we can like dig into and have a bit of a chuckle at. So yeah, just jump on, let us know any topics you want to discuss, any of your thoughts on the game against Atletico Madrid, put them in the comments, and yeah, we'll get into it. So yeah, Atletico Madrid 6, Celtic 0. Oh no. So I'll say what I said to Willie off air. We had an outage with Optus over here in Australia yesterday. So about 10 million people in the country had no phone service for more than half the day. I was one of them. So I didn't get to see the game in full. Didn't get to, um, you know, didn't get the WhatsApp messages from everyone coming through. Didn't get any of that. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, considering like I've got to talk about it on the podcast. But to then only get my upload of the full replay available today at 4 p.m. made it pretty much impossible to watch the game in full. So I'm running off replays. So Willie's the expert on the game tonight on the pod. So yeah, we'll just go through the starting lineup. So we've started with Hart and goals, Taylor, Scales, Carter, Vickers, Johnson, Bernardo, McGregor, and O'Reilly in the middle, and then Kyogo, Palmer, and Maeda up front. Looking at that, Willie, going into the game, how were you feeling leading into it? Were you feeling confident? Did you think we could pinch a result? What was your thoughts?
I wasn't feeling confident going into the game. I did expect to get beat. I didn't expect to beat so heavily. I thought 2-0 would have been a good result for us to go out there and just come away with it. But with the starting lineup, the only question was Bernardo. Was he the one to start, or was it to be Home, or was it to be Turnbull after the way they've been sort of rotated around the last couple of weeks? But I was quite happy with the starting lineup, to be honest with you. I think that was probably the same lineup that we started against them at home, and they did pretty well there, so I had no problems with that. Like,
my main questions going into it, Willie, were, and I said this on Monday, were we going to go with who's going to be the extra guy in the midfield three? And were we going to go with the 4-3-3, or were we going to go with a back three and make it like a 3-5-2, but defensively make it a back three with wing backs for Taylor and Johnson, because Taylor was getting targeted last game at Parkhead. So that was my question. I actually thought we may have gone with the back three there. So when I saw later on that, okay, we went with the same lineup that we went with them last time. Realistically, Bernardo didn't start the last game, but he played from about the 4th or 5th minute mark because of Hatate's injury. So pretty much the same lineup. I thought, okay, we still could have been in this, but at that point, then I looked at that and gone, I saw in the group chat the starting lineup. Then I looked at the result online. No, you're kidding me. Not ideal. So yeah, it was a bit of a humbling experience. Now, what I want to do is I was going to go through the stats from the game for a minute here, because I just want to do is, like, I'm not one of those stat heads. Anyone who tunes into the pod, that's more, Steve Smith, Willie, Stephen, those sort of guys on the pod get into that. And then the guys who do the weekend review, they're more into that than me personally. But the stats when I'm reading this today: shots 27-1, shots on target 12-1. Possession 64% to Atletico Madrid, 34 to us. Passes 774 to 404. Pass accuracy 92% to our 85%. I said to Willie off air, those stats is what we're normally doing to the opposing clubs in Scotland, other than, say, Sevco. Let's be honest. So when we're playing like, Livingston, that's the sort of thing we're doing. When we're playing Motherwell, that's the sort of thing we're doing. So yeah, it's a bit of a humbling and an eye-opening experience, basically, in terms of, how massive. We talk about levels on the pod, and we're the top of the Scottish pile and that level there, but then there's levels to go up. Are we a Europa League side? Are we a Champions League quality side? Are we a European Conference League level side? Well, based on this, we're definitely not a team that would compete in Liga. So, what are your thoughts on the stats there, Willie?
I think one of the most sobering stats is like the XG of 0.02 for the game. Like that's just an all-time low. I don't think I've ever seen it that low for any team. But you look at the momentum meter for it, you get up to like Maeda sending off, and Celtic had a fair bit of possession and play, but it just turns into red wave after red wave from there on in. It's just, it's as I say, there's only so many words you can use to describe something as horrendous as that. Like, but it was pretty bad. Like,
yeah,
I don't think I've seen like stats that so low for us in a very, very long time. Like, it's just bad. Like.
Last time I saw anything like that, Willie, was when we, beat Barcelona 2-1 at Paradise. What was that? 2012, something like that. It was probably the closest sort of one-way street sort of thing in the stats I can remember seeing. So, yeah, I'll bring up some comments here. Andrew Galea, we got smashed. Andrew's also said, Rogers approaching the game as if we're playing any old SPFL opponent. Same setup. We should have played an extra defender, and I wanted a Wada alongside McGregor with just the two up front. I would have been happy with that. Said that on Monday as well. Is the midfield three? Are we going to play a Wada there? So, yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. Andrew follows up with, we're always going to be up against it. We needed to get deep into the game without conceding. So, basically, what you're saying, Andrew, is we needed a Neil Lennon coach sort of, sit back in two blocks, or a Jose Mourinho sort of thing where you just sit deep and just park the bus. You also said that our midfield was overrun straight from the start, so I'd have to agree with that. Craigie White is saying, so bored watching this movie. We simply don't belong in this competition, especially if the charlatans in the boardroom don't parallel our passion and ambition. That's a topic for later in the pod, but yes, I agree with you. So we'll bring that up again later in the pod when we discuss that. So, Willie, do you want to talk about the goals?
Not really. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
no, it's all right. I can do it if you want. Like the first goal, McGregor sort of gets a half clears his header off the line, but it just goes straight to an unmarked Griezmann who shoots him outside the box. And I think there's a deflection in there. When I watched it back, I thought, well, Joe Hart, you should be getting down to get that. Like, but looking at it, I think there's a deflection in there somewhere. The second goal was...
Apparently that one came off Carter Vickers, and Hart was very slow getting down to it.
He was pretty slow getting down to it. I did look at it and I was thinking, oh my God, you should really be getting to that. Like, but then if there is a deflection, then that's maybe taking that split second to get behind it. The second goal, I've got Griezmann here on my list, but it's not Griezmann that scored it. It was Morata won it. Like, he says it's just sort of, he picks out Jimenez with a cross from deep, and he just heads it back across goal, and Morata just slides in to sort of push it over the line. And at that point, it's half time. You were getting into half time, 1-0 down. You're thinking, okay, if we get in at 1-0 down, we can pray to whatever deity in the sky you want to, and hope that it goes well in the second half. But to go in 2-0 down, it was just like, oh, here we go. You kind of knew something was coming in the second half. So, third goal,
I'll just jump in there as well. With the header back across goal, there was a lot of discussion on Twitter and in the Facebook group and stuff like that. People saying, oh, wasn't he offside? Once the ball goes over and the header goes back across the goal, the guy putting the header back across the goal has played everyone back on side, so it was fine.
Yeah. So the third goal was a Llorente cross from the right. It's headed in by, was it Griezmann again? Yeah. He volleyed it beyond Hart. Sorry.
Yeah, it was Griezmann again. Yeah.
Griezmann again. I think it was a loose header in the box, and he just picked it up and volleyed it past the keeper. Yeah.
Bloody good finish. Where it's due.
Fourth goal. Lino, the ball sort of bounces about, and Lino picks it up on the edge of the box, and he just slots it in perfectly on the inside of the far post. I thought that was the best goal. So an instant impact off the bench for him. I thought, like I say, I think that was the pick of the goals of the night for me. Morata scored the fifth. Lino passed it down to him, and he just smashed it. from just outside the box straight into the top corner, straight into the top of the net. And then Laurenti got to the byline for the 6th and crosses it in. And Lino, he smashed his shot a bit wide, but Sal picked it up and poked it home with the second attempt. And I think Joe Hart was all over the place for that one. Like, he was behind the line, inside the net. It's like, right, he's going to get his hand, and you're like, if you're on your line, you get your hand to that. That's 5-0. We get away with a 5-0, but for some reason he's right in the back of the net, like, and it's just like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so, I was watching that, Willie, and I'm looking, even if he had his hands fully outstretched, he would have been just touching the ball on the line. So with the momentum, it was going in. There's no way he could have saved that. It was just shocking positioning there.
But it's one of that ones when you watch it, because I'll be honest with you, the 5th and the 6th, I was at work when the apprentice came in and asked a few questions, so I had to go out. So the 5th and 6th, I've only seen in replays, and the first time I seen it was a slow motion replay, and I'm just sitting there going, Joe Hart, what are you playing at here? Like, you know what I mean? You're way off your line, like in the wrong direction. But I think the scariest thing about it is they had other chances. I mean, if Atletico really wanted to, that could have been 8, 9, even that majestic 10 goal game we talk about on the show every now and again, like, and it could easily have happened that task yesterday. Like,
that's what I was going to say, Willie. Like, the thing for me is the two biggest things that jumped out to me was the lack of clearance for us of the second ball. Like, their crosses coming in, we seem to be handling and dealing with them a lot better this time around than we were in the first game. However, in the first game, when we cleared the header, came down, we then cleared it. The headers went out towards the sideline, or if they went to the middle, they fell to Calmac's feet. They fell to O'Reilly, who were able to clear the ball and move it and get it up the pitch. But in this game, when the ball came down, it ends up at Griezmann's feet for him to just bang, put in the third goal. It lands at Griezmann for the first goal. Murata's goal, where you were saying before about Lino, just like chested it down to him to put it in, just smack it in. There was always someone there that if the ball came in and we cleared it, or if they got onto it and the ball dropped to the top penalty spot to the top of the box, they had the man there, the loose man, just getting onto that ball to get the second shot or to make the next pass, to put another cross in, and the same thing had happened again. So to me, that's the biggest defensive issue that I saw in that game. And that's where, when Andrew said early on that he wanted a wider next to Kelmac, that's why and if we played 3 at the back, I think that could have helped fix that. But I'm just some bloke over here in Australia. I'm not Brendan Rodgers, so I'm not saying that I could have done better. The form that Atletico were in and their finishing ability, even though they're a bunch of grubs, their finishing ability in that game just, I don't know, it doesn't matter to me who would have been playing against that. They would have, caused all sorts of chaos for them. If you put, like as you were saying, Willie, like that was 6-0 going on probably 10 or 11, in my opinion. So, yeah, it's just disappointing, but not entirely unexpected.
Yeah, like you say, it's not unexpected. I mean, key things, you play away from home in Europe, away from home. 2 things you do not do. You don't concede an early goal, and you don't get a player sent off. And we managed to do that both in the first 25 minutes of the game. It was an uphill struggle from there. I mean, they've got 4 World Cup winners in their team. It's never going to be easy with 11 men on the pitch, but when you've only got 10 on the pitch, it's going to be a nightmare. Like, and that whole second half, it was just chasing shadows. It was just like, it was hard to watch. Like,
it was the same.
I can see. So when you go,
that was just the same sort of thing as the final game, Willie. With you're away from home, you concede a goal in the first half, and then you get a guy red carded. There was a couple of red cards in the second half, and then off we went. Yeah. So, yeah, it was the same sort of setup as well. You can't afford to do that in Europe, and we're going to talk about the referees in Europe. That's one of the topics that I want to discuss here. So, yeah, we'll just we'll talk about the red card if you want.
Yeah. I mean, he goes in for a 50-50 with Hermoso. He left his left foot in, and the studs were down. However, for some reason, the referee said that as a booking, which I would have said, yep, that's a booking. And for some reason, VAR's pulled him over and says, come here and have a look at this. And I, for the life of me, I cannot figure out how that is a red card. I mean, his studs, is it because his studs are up? I don't know. Have they shown him a freeze frame? I mean, you can't referee a game by showing freeze frames. I mean, the referee's going to have to see it in the full replay and watch the incident over and over again. At no time do I think that challenge is reckless. I don't think the referee's made a mistake. So VAR is there for clear and obvious errors. At no point did I think the referee made an error with his original decision. I think the biggest error was the decision to send him off after it.
Yeah, I have to agree, Willie. For me, I'm looking at it, key thing, clear and obvious error. Like on the weekend when it got upgraded, that was clear and obvious. This one here, you watch it at full speed. I'm like, there's hardly a foul there. They're just two guys going at it 50-50. They're also going to land it. But then their guy makes a meal of it by rolling around like for the next 10 meters down the field. So he was doing a Neymar, basically. So this bloke, he milked it. And then on top of that, then the yellow card comes out, and then you see in the background Simone and their bench gone absolutely mental when they see a replay of it. And then the fourth official goes to his ear and says something. And then obviously VAR's looked at it and got involved. So not only did their player milk it, but then their whole coaching staff, the grubby bastards that they are, get involved.
Yeah.
And the fourth official got suckered in. And then you look at it and go, there's one angle from the side, doesn't even look like there was contact. You get the reverse angle with behind Maeda, and you see his studs up coming in at shin height. But the guy, where the contact happens, is Maeda's foot doesn't move. He's closing down the ball. The guy swings, like kicks the ball, and his follow through moves up into Maeda's foot, and then down he goes. So the movement was actually into Maeda, but because his studs were exposed, he gets caught out and he gets sent off. It's the most ridiculous and softest red card I reckon I've ever seen. Well, it's right up there, anyway.
Yeah, it definitely is up there, right? If that's the way VAR's going, then it's just horrible. There's somebody sitting there re-reffing the game 2 or 3 minutes behind, and he's decided, I don't like that, and he's called the referee over to say, I don't like this, I think you should send him off. The referee was right in his decision. But if that's the way the game's going to be going, then I think it's time for the SFA and other FAs across Europe to question this and just say, hang on a second here, where are we going to draw the line? You know what I mean? This isn't enjoyment anymore. You're having long pauses in the game. There's that instantaneous moment when you score a goal on nights like this. I mean, you just want to celebrate. Like, you have to sit there and sit in your hands for 2 or 3 seconds and make you see is VAR going to let this one stand or not? It's just it's sucking the life out of the game at the moment, man.
100% agree with you. And it was the same with the VAR review they did before with Maeda potentially getting the penalty. And then that didn't go away. Then this went against us as well. And it's just, I don't know. It makes me ask the question about the standard of refereeing in Europe compared to in Scotland. Like, we talk about how bad the Scottish referees are, yet you go into Europe and then you get the night we had over in Rotterdam with the 2 red cards there. You get this red card in Madrid, and it makes you wonder, like, how's the standard so massive between the two? Like, the referees, you don't get away with anywhere near as much in Europe as you do in Scotland. First of all, like, how many times have we seen Maeda do that exact challenge in Scotland, similar contact, and it's just a foul? Under Ange, he was doing that probably once or twice a week, and it was just a foul. And it's a red card in the Champions League. It makes no sense to me. On top of that, the referee that we had was the one that Virgil said was the worst referee he's ever had in his life. He sent him off years ago as well. So the guy's got form for it. So there's
I
that.
better be careful what I say. He's Slovenian. My wife's a Slovenian. I hope she's not listening.
Just because he's that doesn't mean that they're all that way. I will openly say that, because some Australians, like beer, doesn't mean all of us are alcoholics. There you go. It's the same thing.
He was bad. Like, he was. I mean, he's so obviously easily influenced, like, by the dark arts of the game, and easily influenced by what's happening in his earpiece. He should have had the temerity to just turn around and say, "No, that's a yellow card, mate. I don't even need to come over and see that again." Like, but he didn't. He came over the screen, and then whoever's in his earpiece has convinced him it's a red card, and it's just like, well, no, you were right with your first decision, mate. Stick to your guns. I just don't get it. Like,
there was a referee I saw, I don't think it was in Germany or in Italy, on the weekend, where he was talking to the ref, and everyone's like piling in around him. The team was trying to like surround him. So what he's done is he's gone up, gets his spray out for marking the ball on the free kick wall, drew a line and said, "Do not cross or I'll code it." And he put it in his pocket, and then he walked back so he could talk to the guys. And the VAR was getting involved on something, and then he's come forward and he's gone bang, kept his yellow card and got on with it.
Yeah.
I love the way that he actually used. That's a great use of that foam that the refs all have to carry. Make the refs do that, because as Terry McCann's saying here in the comments, the referee let them bully him. Palmer booked for dissent when they were constantly, at it with no bookings. Matters are sending off. It's no longer a contact sport. And then you've got Andrew's agreeing with me, so I'm glad it wasn't just me saying it this way, that Maeda lifted his foot to block and the bloke kicks him with the follow-through. Great. I'm glad someone else has seen it the same way. Craigie White, we just can't catch a break in this competition. Feel for Dazen. VAR needs looked at from top to bottom. And then Andrew Maeda was the last bloke we want to send off. We lose so much without him. 100%.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Like,
yeah, and it's not just losing him now. We don't have him in Rome.
Yeah.
We're going to get a Lazio and we've got to win and take him out of it. And then you've got Palmer's also out as well, because 2 yellows, because of the game against Atletico last time. I think it was, or was it the one before that, the Lazio game where he scored and then took his shirt off? I think it was the Lazio game, and he got booked for that. And then, the goal was chalked off, but he doesn't get his card.
He doesn't get his rescinded down.
So because that's not rescinded, now we miss out on having both of our starting wingers to go to Rome. It's going to be tough. So
I think his booking, he was silly. Straight away, if you go up to a referee and ask him to challenge him on what he's deciding, and you're straight away you're going to go in about dissent as an instant booking offence in this day and age. And he's only got himself to blame, to be honest, on that one. I'm afraid it was silly, silly move from him. Like,
yep, sure was.
But I will say I'm not having much luck. I went to watch the Rugby World Cup final with my mates, and the video referee killed that game for me too. So I'm not having much luck with the video assistants. So.
Fair enough. Yeah, those sort of things you don't really like. And we do it in the NRL all the time as well. Like when me and the wife who just walked past here, we go to the Melbourne Storm games and they send things up to the, the video referee and stuff, and it just does my head in as well. It's like, I'm not a massive fan of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, good fun. Yeah. So, were there any other flashpoints or talking points you wanted to discuss from the game, Willie, or do you just want to get into our player focus that we normally do?
Well, to be honest with you, there's not an awful lot of positives to pick out from the game from a Celtic point of view. And the only other, out of the 6 goals we've just talked about, the only other things to really talk about in the game is the shots they had that didn't go in. Like, so if we kind of swiftly move on to the player ratings, that would probably be best.
The only other thing I wanted to talk about was after last game, Simone refusing to shake Brendan's hand. How quick was he up the tunnel this time at the end of the game?
Did he refuse to shake his hand again? I haven't seen this.
I don't know if he refused to shake it or not. I think some people are saying he did. But no matter what happened, even if he did shake his hand, as soon as it was done, he was like legging it up the tunnel. He was out of there so quick. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, weird bloke. All right, Willie, so Joe Hart, what would you give him his performance?
4. I think he could have maybe done better with the first and last goal, but no chance for the rest.
Greg Taylor.
I'm tempted to give Greg Taylor a 7 because he's the only player that's showing a bit of consistency at this level. But he gets a 3 for the similar kind of performance we've come to see from him of late.
Scales.
I'll say Scales and Carter Vickers both get a 4. It's a night to forget for both of them, and it must have been really daunting to try and keep a hold of Morata and Griezmann for the 2 of them. Like, so they both get a 4.
Carter Vickers.
4 again, yeah.
And Johnston
again 4. I think he was caught with a raking diagonal ball. Not a great night for him. Like, really made his work ethic ahead of him. You can see that, like, you know what I mean? As soon as Maeda came off the pitch, that's like having was Brendan Rodgers said, if you go down to 10 men, it's not like going down to 10 men with Thies and Maeda on the pitch. If you lose Dias and Maeda, it sometimes can be like losing two men, and I think that hurt Johnson out on the right.
The thing with me for Johnson is, I was talking about those headers going down for the second ball. He got caught out a few times where normally he would header them wide, and they were coming because the cross angle that was coming on, they were coming back to the middle of his head. So it's like they were targeting him under that with that ball coming back in, because there was a couple of them where a couple of those saves that Joe Hart made came off him headering it back towards his midfielders who didn't win the ball, and then that happened. So, yeah. And Tony McCann, he was saying that Taylor dropping off to allow crosses to stop. So the full backs were targeted there, but we'll get into the midfield now. Callum McGregor.
4, another one who wince when he sort of recalls us and can't. He spent most of the game chasing shadows, like in the second half, especially. Like it was just a thankless task in there.
O'Reilly
gets a 4 as well. I know he only got a half. He really couldn't get a grip of the game, and he was hooked at half time.
Bernardo
2, anonymous. I don't remember seeing him at all throughout the game, so it's hard to describe what sort of performance that was from him.
Palmer,
probably give him a 4 as well. He tested the keeper a few times, but the efforts were pretty tame. Got himself booked, and he was hooked at half time.
Maeda,
a 2. He was actually probably the brightest player for us up until the sending off, and then just 20 minutes in, you can't really give him any higher than rating than 2, because it's hard. Like, I mean, he didn't deserve to be sent off, but you can't really score him any higher than that, I don't think.
And Kyogo,
a 3. Never really got a sniff of the ball. There was no service to him. He was just stood up front on his own. A very, very lonely place for him.
A thankless job on a night like that.
Yeah.
And then we'll go through the bench. So we'll quickly rattle through him. Yang, what were your thoughts on him?
Yang, Turnbull, and Awata, they all get a 2, and they get the same review from me. They came on, they disappeared, chasing shadows. There was nothing for them. They couldn't do anything. They were just running around. Like, I would say like headless chickens. That's a bit harsh, like, but they were just running around chasing shadows, like, and it was difficult for them.
And you got Home and O with the other 2 off the bench.
I'll probably give Home a 3. Well, maybe a night forgetting, but again, chasing shadows in that second half, it's not an easy game to do. It's not easy to play against a world-class side with 11 men, let alone 10. And O gets a 2 as well. And just like Kyogo, just no service and no action to be seen of him.
Yep. So I'm going to ask you a question that I saw online today. And when we're down 3-0, you pretty much know that the result's done. You're down a man. You're down 3 goals away from home. And you're looking at it going, yeah, we're not going to win this. Do you think that's what Brendan Rodgers was thinking when he started to make some of those subs and rest some players leading into the weekend's game against Aberdeen? Or do you think it was just rotate because it's pretty much done, get some game time in a player's legs? What do you think?
I think there's a little bit of both in it. Like, I mean, you can see the sense in bringing Awata on. I don't understand. I'm being a bit harsh maybe on Turnbull, bringing Turnbull on, but because he doesn't offer anything defensively, and he's a bit slow. So I can't understand why they took him on, to be honest with you. But yeah, there is a degree of he's probably just decided to rest some of the better players for the weekend, so they're not too totally dejected for when it comes to them Sunday's game.
And then the other question I had for you was, I mentioned it early on, we go to Lazio next.
Yeah.
And we're missing Maeda, we're missing Palmer. Who are you going to start? Because Craigie White saying we can replace them with Mikey Johnson and James Forrest.
I think Yang would probably come in for one of the places, but James Forrest would probably be the other. Like, I can't see Mikey Johnson getting a start in Rome. Right, he can barely get a start at Love Street, so I can't see it at all.
I'm having a look here. Going the options we've got are Yang, we've got Forrest, we've got Mikey Johnson, and we also have Rocco Vada.
Yeah,
So
I mean, he could go out there and play 3-5-2 and just have Taylor and Johnson trying to bomb up and down the wing. Have three centre backs in there and three centre midfielders in there, and negate any sort of natural wingers, like, and try and get Kyogo and O up front. Allow Kyogo to attack in off the right.
could see that. Like that wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
The only problem for me on that front would be which games are we going to play that in leading up to that match so we get a bit of a rhythm with the guys playing together. You're not going to do that against Aberdeen, are you?
Nah, you're not. I mean, the game against Aberdeen we'll discuss in a highlight, but I can't see them going straight. I mean, he's not going to show his hand straight away, that's for sure. Like, you know what I mean? He's going to say, right, this is how we're going to attack the Lazio game, and we'll start playing that all up straight away.
Yeah, and then you got Motherwell. Like, you got the international break, and then you got the Motherwell game. So I think realistically, the Motherwell game would be, if we were going to go that way, that would probably be where it would happen, because you've got an international break to do some training and get onto
work on it. Yeah. You might see him slip into it at the end of the Aberdeen game if we're winning. He might just decide to change it up, see how they sort of adapt to it. Like, but the Motherwell game would be more likely of the two to try it out. And
yep. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the final thought on that game to Craigie White with this comment here. I'm not throwing Brendan under the bus. He can only do so much. Even a talented coach such as he is, he can't turn water into wine, unfortunately. So I think that's it, basically. I'm leaving that thought there on the actual game, the tactics, the players and everything. And now we get into the next question I had for you, Willie. We discussed that a little early on as well. So Craigie also had this comment: I'm bored of watching this movie. We simply don't belong in this competition, especially with the charlatans in the boardroom don't parallel our passion and ambition. So talking about that, my question to you is, does Celtic's board take competing in Europe as seriously as the fan base? When you look at our fan base, the away days, the traveling support that you get in games in Europe, whether it's Rotterdam, whether it's Rome, whether it's going to Madrid, whether it's up to Dingwall, wherever you're playing, the Celtic fans are always there. On top of that, you're going to have, you see the turnout we get for the home games every week, 60,000 seat stadium, a 10,000 waiting list for season tickets. There is crazy support there. Does the board take us for granted as a fan base? And do they take competing in Europe as seriously as we as a fan base all think we should? What's your thoughts, Willie?
I am on the wavelength that they don't take Europe as serious as we do. Like, I'm certainly there. I mean, you look at the signings we made this summer. We've said it time and time again, we need a goalkeeper, left back and a striker. And we never got any of the three of them in the transfer window. Some of the signings we've been making of late, I'm just scratching my head up. Players like Kwon, doesn't make sense to me. Young is a prospect, you know what I mean? He could come good. Lager Bielka, from what I'm hearing, he's too slow, but we've gone out and signed him anyway. Holmes a prospect, he looks good, and he could potentially will come good, like, but we need to start making these incremental increases in our spending and the type of player we're buying, but the board aren't matching that ambition. The board are quite happy to spend 2.5 million 4 times to try and get a player that might get a bit of money back in, rather than spend 10 million on a player who will instantly improve the team. And it's becoming something that's really sort of grating on me. It's becoming a big bugbear at the moment. It's the fact that we are not matching the ambition. Brendan Rodgers has come in. He said that he wants to achieve something. He wants to make a mark in Europe with the Celtic team. But no, with that squad, you're not. You're not going to make any sort of mark in the Champions League with that squad. You've got a squad of 32 first-team players. You've probably got about 8 of them who are probably Champions League standard. And then if you double that to 16, who will probably be Europa League ready, but that still leaves 16 players who aren't probably going to cut it at the European level. Like, so I don't think the board are matching our ambitions. No, not at all.
And that's where we were talking about in our group chat, Willie. You were saying that You're getting sick of these £2.5, £3 million signings. Look at it this way: we could have gone and signed an Aaron Hickey or a Josh Doig for £3 million. Yet we go and spend £3.5 million on Bernabei, and where's he?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous sort of thing. So it's about not just spending the money, but spending it right. Like when we had Jota on loan and we had Carter Vickers on loan, those were the $6 million investments that we'd had them for a year. We knew that what those players were. Okay, we signed them. But you're bringing in guys like Tilio, like Yang, like Quan. These are the development guys that you're going to develop. They're probably going to take a few years. And I'll talk about the conveyor belt. Like you want to have the starter and then you want to have the understudy who's challenging and ready to go. Quan isn't even the understudy. Quan's the understudy's understudy. So that's how far down we brought a guy in there. Tilio's come in to back up a guy on the wing. He's probably Palmer. When everyone's fit, you're going to have Palmer starting, and then you're going to have Yang and Tilio battling to back him up because Maeda's going to be starting every week.
Yeah.
So you're looking at it like that. If you're going to spend the money, yeah, I'd rather us go and spend 6 million, 7 million, 9 million for an Edward. Look at what he did for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd rather us go and do that instead of getting 4 players for 2.5 to 3 million. Spend 12 million on like a Jota and a Carter Vickers. Bring them in this year. Get them on a 4 or 5 year deal. Then the next year, do it again. Then the next year, do it again. And suddenly your squad has got that depth that we're talking about there, Willie.
Yeah.
And you can actually challenge and compete. And while that's happening, your players are developing. If people leave, like Juranovic left, we identified Johnson, brought him in, and it's a step forward. And you've still got Ralston as backup, so you could go. We've got to do that. But the key positions: goalkeeper, left back, striker. Another one I'm going to touch on is with Starfelt leaving, we're just lucky. We're actually dodged a bullet at the moment massively that Scales is coming in and he's playing the way he is, because you look at what he's doing in the league and also look at what he's doing in Europe. He's playing at a level that I never thought he was capable of. And if he wasn't in the team doing what he's doing at the moment, Lagerbelk is too slow. We've signed him. We've got Phillips on loan, yet Scales are starting over the top of those two, who are both fit. Naroski probably would be the starter if he was fit. But Scales now owns that jersey, and he's locked it down that well, in my opinion. That he's the best option. Welsh has come back from injury and was on the bench on was it Tuesday night? So realistically, we've got all these defenders there, but we're just lucky the form that Scales has been in and the job he's done, which has got us out of an even deeper hole that we would have been in.
Yeah.
So that's another position that we should have possibly been caught out in. Shouldn't have been selling Starfelt unless you've got the quality to go straight in, which we did in Naroski, but then he got hurt.
I think Naroski might come good. I do have high hopes for that boy. But I think Stevie Smith's pointed out on here before. We have good success when we spend big. You know what I mean? Edward came in and we sold him. He was in the last year of his contract, and we still got 18 million for him. You have other players like Cameron Carter-Vickers. We can get a bit of money for him if he decides he wants to move on. He was signed for 7 million. Jota was 7 million. Got 25 million for him. We do have a good track record when we push the boat out and spend a little bigger, but we just seem to fill the squad with makeshifts. You know what I mean? Players like Sorrow, and there's been so many of them. You know what I mean? Burnaby, they're never going to make it. We're going to end up paying their contract to get rid of them, and it's just like, well, there's 4.5 million. What was it? 4 million we paid for Burnaby. Whatever his contract is, 12 grand a week, you're going to be another million to pay him off just to say that it's not working for you. Here's $1 million. See you later. Cheerio. You know what I mean? Players like Bolly and Golly, you know what I mean? God, the list goes on and on. Scott Bain and goals, just, he's good to have around the squad. You know what I mean? Does he do magic card tricks in the dressing room at half time to keep everyone entertained or something? Because it's just, I don't know. It just seems to be rinse and repeat. There just seems to be no impetus from the board to say, right, okay, this is where we're at. This is how we get to the next level, and this is how we're going to achieve it. It just seems to be, we're quite good. Well, we're winning the league. We're winning the league every year. We're winning all the trophies. Why do we need to spend more money on it? like Smaug and the Hobbit in the movie, just that dragon lying on the big pile of gold coins, no wanting to fucking part with it. Like, just
Scrooge
that's your
McDuck
head
aboard.
in, doesn't it? Like, you know.
There's Scrooge McDucks aboard. There you go. No,
It's
but
just,
look, what you're saying makes sense. Like, not every big signing is going to be a Barkas or a Yeti. Those two,
yeah,
I think those have got the board a little jumpy. But if you go back and look at it, yeah, when you spend money on Jota, on Carter Vickers, on Julian was good till he hurt his knee. Those two
yeah,
guys, Edward, spending money, it's worked for us. On top of that, you also got to look at it and go, not every signing that you get low and cheap, as you've said, is going to be a bargain. It's going to work out. For every, what do we got now? Every O'Reilly for 1.5 million, Hatate for 1.5 million, Maeda for $1 million. Let's keep rattling through here. Chris Iyer for $500,000. Those sort of ones, right? What's the other guy? The one who started it all, Wanyama. There we go.
Wanyama, he was $1 million from Beershot.
Yeah. For every one of them,
that's
we're
10
getting
years
that.
ago.
Yeah. But for every one of that level of spend, and we're still spending the same money, but with inflation, you don't get the same level of player, first of all. But second of all, if you're going to spend that level of money, what are you ending up with? You're ending up with a lot of list filler, and you're ending up with guys on your books like Dirk Borger, like Stefan Skepkovic, like Amado Baldi, like Abui Kawasi, and Shane Duffy on loan and Diego Laxalt on loan, and John Joe Kenny. Like, what are you doing here? We need someone to understand and set a plan and actually do that. It's there you go, and Barkas, there we go. That's another one. So yeah, it's just
it's almost like they've got a list of players that are under a certain value and they just stick them in the computer and randomly pick one and go, oh, he'll do it. That's him. Derek Barrichter, 3.5 million, plays for Ajax. They'll love him. Gets in and he's got the worst attitude you've ever seen any professional in any sort of walk of life. And you just say, oh, how did that happen? Well, we know how that happened because you're not doing your due diligence on what you're trying to buy. Like,
yep, 100%. So we got some comments here. Like Andrew Galea is like, the problem is we continue to stack the squad without moving players out, which is what you were saying, Willie. And then Andrew's follow-up was, why sign players like Tilio and Quan when there's players ahead of them not getting games? Rocky's not in the European squad, I believe.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, still hurt. But then Maestro's going, we've got an overload in defence because of a freak injuries. Big Nat will be heading back.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about the whole transfer thing. He goes, that's football. Players come and go. Projects, some work and go for higher fees. And Andrew Galea is saying, we've got to start including Bernabé in the Barkas or Yeti category. Yeah, pretty much there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got rid of Cascarino.
But there's things that we talked at length in the close season about a guy called Quentin Merlin, and I believe Man City are now watching him. And we could have had him for 8 to 10 million, a left back, a quality left back, and now Man City scouts have got their eyes on him. So it just goes to show you that
when Bayern Munich's looking at him as well.
Yeah, so like that was there, you know what I mean? That was in front of us at one point, and we're like, that might be too much of a risk. And now the bigger clubs are sitting circling around him. It's like, oh, here we go again. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's another one of those ones that, towards the end of Brendan's first run, there was those players he was linked with that he wanted to then went to Valencia and so on. He could be one in that basket. Craigie White is saying, I personally won't buy a UCL package again until I see some ambition in the next window. I'm sure my wife will make good use of the 150. Just tell her the ticket was 100 and let's pocket 50 yourself, Craigie. Come on, mate. Look after yourself a bit.
Yeah.
And then Vanessa's saying Ansel duds too. And I'm like, I'm not pointing a finger at the manager here. I'm just saying in general, the club, what we've done.
It's a club that's sanctioning all this, and if the scouting network aren't doing their due diligence, and that's where we'll get these players from. Listen, we go. Yeah, Brendan Rodgers came back with the ambition of doing something in Europe, and the board need to back him. This is an open invitation for the board to show their hand and back the manager in the next 2 windows and say, here you are, here is this goalkeeper that you need, here is this left back that you need, and here is this striker that you need. Is there any other players you think would complement this squad now? We're going to try and get rid of a lot of these players that are never going to make the grade at Celtic, and they need to back Brendan Rodgers, or Brendan Rodgers is going to turn around and go, do you know what? Why did I come back here? You know, I mean, I'm not here to manage a slow decline of Celtic Football Club. I'm here to try and make a mark in Europe with them. And it's up to the board now to get into that millions that we have sitting in the bank account. It's not about the dividends paid out to shareholders. It's about the fans. And it's about time that they paid us back for all of our support.
That's our money sitting there, Willie, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's the fan base. Look at that. The shirt you're wearing at the moment, that's not cheap for you over in New Zealand. It's not cheap for us over here. Celtic TV's not cheap. Like as Craigie's saying, $150 for the UCL package on top of your season book. It's everyone's money. The merch. Every time Adidas is dropping 4 kits plus all the training ranges and everything, it's money on the bottom line. We've got 70-something million sitting there, plus this year's Champions League money to come in. By this time next year, probably going to be close to £100 million sitting in the bank. So
25 million from 25 million from Jota, and you're probably going to get another 25 million for O'Reilly too if he carries on the way he's playing. You know, I mean, it's adding up, but it's not getting spent on where it needs to be spent. It's just going into a bank account, and there's some fat cats at the top just sitting there rubbing their paws, thinking about the interest that's getting paid into it. It disgusts me.
Makes no sense. But anyway, let's so we pretty much have figured out that the board is on board with what we're thinking as the fans we want, right? So we've ticked that off. So what's next for Celtic in Europe going forward, Willie? Do you think we can finish 3rd in the group, or is it all over?
Listen, there's a chance that we can finish 3rd. Mathematically, we are not out of this group, but we were hanging on by a fingernail to a cliff edge. And the next game is Lazio away. Our away form is absolutely honking. I do not see us taking any points in Lazio. If we take a point in Lazio, I will be over the moon, but I can't see it. And if I'm being honest, I think a draw against Feyenoord will probably be the result we get to. So I think we will match last season's tally of 2 points.
So basically this was what was seen today and we shared in our group. If we go to Rome and we beat Lazio 2-0, and then Atletico Madrid beat Feyenoord 1-0. And then the last week, Atletico beat Lazio 1-0 and we beat Feyenoord 1-0. The final group will be Atletico on 14 points, us in 2nd on 7 points, Lazio in 3rd on 7 points because we have head-to-head on them, and then Feyenoord in last. So that's pretty much the only way we will be able to somehow hang in there. We have to win in Rome, and then we have to win against Feyenoord. Yeah.
If that happened, I'd be buying a lottery ticket, and I'd be like, "There's no way this is going. No way I can't not win the lottery if this happens."
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So we'll see what happens over the next bit anyway. But yeah, we'll get on with it. I'm going to bring up a comment here from Maestro as well, talking about the recruitment. Last thing on that is it Law's son in recruitment? They need to show that the youth system works. That should be the lifeblood as well as signing better quality. 100%. I agree with you on that, Maestro, in that if we're going to bring through, the production line that I'm talking about is you want to have that star player ready to go. So you want to have your quality that you're signing as your starter, right? And then we want to have that backup challenging. If that's someone coming through, say, for instance, you had Dyson starting, and then backing up him was Rocco Vada, challenging him for that spot. Doesn't get sold, then you got the choice. Is Rocco ready to step up into that starting role and become the main man in that role? If he is, cool, bring through the next person into the production line to back him up. If Rocco is not ready for that starting role, sign someone to fill that spot there. That's how it should work, in my opinion. So, yeah, I agree with you. We need to start seeing some sort of pathway from the Colts to the first team, but at the same time, we do need to move out a lot of the dead wood before that can happen.
Yeah.
So, Willie, we're playing Aberdeen on Sunday. Isn't that where
Yep.
your neck of the woods?
Kind of like they
I
were
know.
like when I grew up, they were the nearest. I think they were the nearest football team to me growing up. I live in the middle of nowhere, right on the north coast. Like, so I think Ross County is now the nearest team, but they were never a league team. When I was a kid, they were a Highland League team, and there was two sides from Inverness back then. About a long time ago. A history lesson for you.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got Aberdeen on the weekend. What are your thoughts for the going into the game? How do you think we're going to perform after the Champions League match? And what's your predicted starting lineup?
I think Aberdeen at home is a fixture we have a great success in, and I think it's probably a good fixture to try and pick up and go again from, because Aberdeen won't be coming off. I think they play PAOK Salonico away, so they'll be coming back from there, and they seem to have a bigger case of Euro hangovers than we do. So I think it's going to be one of those tight games that we'll eventually win 3-0, but it'll be like we'll score and then it'll be like it'll be 1-0 to the 80th minute, and then we'll get 2 goals once they just collapse through tiredness. But I would rest Liam Scales this weekend, and I would play Narowski, and I would start Thiago home ahead of Bernardo. So my starting lineup will be Hart, Taylor, CCV, Navrotsky, Ralston, Holm, Kalmak, O'Reilly, Maeda, Palmer, and Kyogo.
So I'm just looking at Aberdeen at the moment, and they're playing our time tomorrow morning. So what's that? Thursday night and they're playing in Greece. So that's going to
Yeah,
be a bit of a short turnaround for them. So both of us are playing after an away game in Europe. They're having to travel further, and then they've got to come down to Glasgow. So realistically, we should be getting the win. For me, yeah, I'm looking at it saying we've got to bounce back. We've got to get back to our winning ways, and we've got to actually play some football. So I'm thinking though we're going to have a bit of an interesting lineup. It's going to be Scales and Carter Vickers at the back. We're going to have Harding goals. As you said, we're going to have Ralston in there. And out left, we'll probably have Taylor because we've got no one else to play there at the moment.
yeah.
Middle of the park, I want to see Kalmak given a rest, all things considered. I would like to see him get a rest. He's looked pretty leggy the last few games. So let's play Awada in the number 6 role, along with O'Reilly and Home. And then up front, I would start O, because Aberdeen's got some big centre backs who like to get physical. And then I would go with Yang and Maeda, because I want that game changer in Palmer coming off the bench, along with Kyogo later on if you need to. So that's
Yeah,
what I'll
that's
go
a good,
with.
good shout. Yeah.
Maestro's saying that Celtic will be a wounded animal. I expect a resounding win. So, Willie, what are you thinking for your score prediction?
I'm going to go 3-0. Like I said earlier, I think we'll get a goal. We'll settle the nerves a wee bit, but the last 2 goals will come later on in the game.
Yeah, for me, I think we go out there and we'll do them 4-1. Same margin as you, but the reason I'm saying they're going to get a goal is there's going to be some sort of controversy with VAR, just to prove that it doesn't just happen to us in Europe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. Maestro's saying I would rest Kyogo, Palmer, McGregor. Hey, great minds thinking alike.
There you
That
go.
bench last Saturday was strong. There we go. So yeah, I think we'll just leave the pod there. Somehow we've gone this far. I thought we'd be lucky to
I
get
know.
20 minutes of this pod tonight, Willie.
Yeah, we've done all right actually. Like I thought, I didn't think we'd managed to get to the hour mark, like, but we're nearly there. Like,
Yeah, so we'll get through this. We'll get Celtic back on the weekend, and yeah, tune in on Monday for the pot noodle, where we just talk about the game, and then we'll also have on Tuesday the weekend review pod will come out. What we want to do is just quickly plug our social media stuff. So on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads and all that, it's at Celtic Down. On YouTube and Facebook, you can find us Celtic Down Under. Just look for the boxing kangaroo logo. We've relaunched our website, CelticDownUnder.com, which has now got links to all of our social media channels. You can find the links through there. You can find our podcasts on there, YouTube's on there, and also our store is on there as well, relaunched. So you can get Celtic Down Under t-shirts like the one I'm wearing, in black, white, grey, and green, and hoodies as well. So get on there, and if you want to get someone who enjoys the podcast a Christmas present, there's an idea for you. Thank everyone for tuning in again. Please hit that like button on this and subscribe to the channel. Willie, you got a final thought?
Yeah, book recommendation, Dom Jolly's Conspiracy Tourist. It is laugh out loud funny. If you're into conspiracy theories, you probably should give it a miss.
My final thought is the chief executive over at Rangers talking about, redeveloping Ibrox to make it a bigger stadium than Celtic Park. Put the crack pipe down, mate. You've got no money. You can't pay for any monopoly money and build it with Lego. So, yeah, keep dreaming, son. Keep dreaming. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And hail, hail.
Hail, hail.